tuned in to the Keetria Show and listening to SOB, Style of Business, the podcast with your host, Keetria. We aim to highlight the ongoing trek of entrepreneurs and business owners from around the globe, featuring stories that recount their struggles, experiences, and inevitable road to success and self-fulfillment. Welcome to SOB.
This episode is supported by the wonderful creators of Gratitude Plus app, the app that helps you cultivate a daily practice of gratitude. What are you grateful for today? You can download the app now at the App Store or by visiting gratitudeplusapp.com/style of business. Hey, what's up, guys? Thanks for tuning in for another hot episode of SOB Style of Business, the podcast. Today, I have a fantastic guest on the line with us, and he's going to be sharing some wonderful things that are going to be extremely useful and helpful during this time. So hopefully you guys will stick through. Be sure to check this out. It is definitely some information and news that we can all use. I am speaking to Mr. Evan Knox, who is the founder of Caffeine Marketing. And he's definitely, I don't know what to say about this one, but we just had a brief chat and he's here to help. So guys, listen, especially if you have a business and you are looking to utilize the online space and get some tips and jewels when it comes to digital marketing and being able to maximize, you want to check this out. So without further ado, like I said, Mr. Evan Knox, Evan, drop that intro for us and let's roll and discuss all things digital marketing and whatever else it is that you are able to share with us, sir, please.
Yeah, totally. Well, thanks for having me. I really appreciate it. Like Keetria said, I'm Evan. I run an agency in Atlanta called Caffeine Marketing. We help make marketing profitable for companies that are doing less than $25 million a year. I'm also involved in a couple of other businesses as well as the CMO. And I've also got a course called Business Mastery with our sister company, Caffeine Labs, that basically lays out the blueprint that I've used to double our company's bottom line revenue every year for the last 3 years. So I hope to bring a ton of value to your audience, and I'm excited to get started.
Perfect. We are definitely looking forward to it. I know I myself am also a small business owner, so any tips and resources, I'm always ears. But first, let's start with a brief just background, Evan. If you wanted to give us some information about how you got started with marketing and specifically in the digital realm, that would be great.
Yeah. So my first exposure to marketing was when I was just a little kid. My grandfather owned a jewelry store in Atlanta, so sold diamond rings, watches, all that stuff. And my dad was in the similar industry, and he was also in the jewelry industry, but he was in the B2B space. So my dad was a diamond wholesaler, so he would direct import diamonds from Israel. And so I just grew up in a family of entrepreneurs, business owners, and my great-grandfather was a business owner as well. So entrepreneurship has always been a thing to me, but I remember my grandfather actually teaching me about marketing when I was really little, like maybe 12 or 13 years old. Maybe that's not really little, but anyway, and him telling me, hey, yeah, totally. So he was telling me, hey, we're going to put this ad in the symphony. It's going to have these details in it. What do you think? And obviously I'm probably not that much help at 12 years old, but he let me help him. Fast forward to about 4 years ago, unfortunately, my dad had passed away, and my grandfather was on the horizon was retirement for him. And so I thought, you know what, I can't help my dad anymore because he's no longer with us, but I could definitely help other small business owners and entrepreneurs. So I decided to start Caffeine Marketing, and it's been a wild ride ever since.
Man, that's a fantastic story. I love it because, the thing with marketing is that there's no blueprint. I mean, you have like the fundamentals and a foundation that a lot of people use, but as far as being creative, there's no one way to do it, right? So with that, as far as caffeine marketing goes, tell us a little bit about the specific services that you provide or what it is that you guys focus on, because I know when people say digital marketing or just even marketing in general, that kind of, it confuses a lot of people because it means so many different things. So give us a little breakdown of how that relates to caffeine marketing and some of the things that you guys are doing.
Absolutely. And it's probably helpful to and this is not a pitch at all, but I'll just walk you through our 3-step process.
Okay, so perfect. Yeah.
The first step in our process is that intro call. And that intro call, we get to know your business, we get to know your revenue, how much each customer is worth to you, so your annual lifetime value, how much margin is in your product. And we will literally design a marketing strategy that we are suggesting that we implement, but I mean, I guess you could totally implement it as well. And so in that initial call, we basically break down, hey, here's exactly what we think we should do. And honestly, I do that because I only want to work with companies that I know our marketing is going to be profitable for, because our brand promise is to make marketing profitable. So there are a couple of times during the year, probably a half dozen or a dozen or so, where a company won't be a good fit. Yeah. And so that's when I get to know that. And we also design that marketing strategy out for them. And then so phase 2 is that we give our clients options. Hey, here's tier 1, tier 2, and tier 3. How aggressively do you want to pursue your marketing growth? You know, how quickly do you want to grow your company? Actually, I was on a call yesterday, so Thursday morning, when the time we're recording this is on Friday. And so on Thursday morning, I was talking with a client, and we were saying, hey, we could spend a lot more money because every dollar that we're spending right now, we're getting $4 back. But let's just not dump a whole chunk of change, a couple thousand. Let's only do a few thousand, because the rest of our business can't handle that right now. Yeah. So we don't have the systems and processes in place to handle that much demand to essentially double the company. So we're going to scale up essentially 50% one month, and then the next month we're going to do the same thing. But anyway, so that's that. Second phase is designing the 3 options for the client to decide from. And then lastly, my team actually creates and implements it. And we use a 7-part framework called Story Brand to essentially create our clients' messaging in a way that makes their customers the hero and helps the client to be the guide in this scenario so that their marketing is actually profitable. So we start with strategy, we use story, and ultimately make marketing profitable for our clients.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I love that you mentioned the story brand, because you have to have the story. You know, the narrative has to be able to gain the interest of, the audience or the consumer. And so tell us a little bit about the importance of just kind of knowing where your vision is, because I know sometimes, especially as maybe a new business or an entrepreneur, when you get started, maybe there's a general vision, but there's no specific, set goals and things like that as far as your story and things like that goes. So how does that tie in? How important is it that your vision and being able to tell the story?
Absolutely. So, kind of like what you were just saying, most entrepreneurs and business owners just throw things on the wall hoping something will stick. Yeah. I can't tell you how many times I saw that in my own family. And I see it all the time with people before they start working with caffeine. It's like, oh my gosh, I hear Facebook's working right now. So people throw a bunch of money at Facebook. Right. It's like, oh, I hear TikTok's a thing now, so I should start doing that. And so that is not a formula for success, especially in the long run. So that's why that initial call that we're talking about, designing the strategy, you have to understand the strategy first. If you don't, ultimately, you could pick a bunch of tools that might work really well, but if you don't know how they fit into your overall marketing strategy, it's not going to be profitable for you. So it's really important to understand brand awareness is the first part of the marketing strategy. Consideration is the second phase, and then ultimately we're leading people towards conversion. And then the actual nuts and bolts of how we implement that story, I say is really important, because if you are not defining the right problem that you solve, or you're not defining what your customer actually wants in your story, you're not going to strike a chord with your target market. And ultimately, it's going to be really hard to scale if the words that you're saying fall on deaf ears because you're not speaking the language that they actually want to hear. Wow.
Yeah. No, I you know what? And a follow-up question to that, what you just discussed, is how do you determine especially with social media, which platforms, like you said, okay, there's TikTok, there's Twitch, there's Facebook, Instagram. There's so many options. How do you determine which social media platform to focus on as a small business, or even a business in general? How do you determine which one to focus on? Because you can't. I guess you could, allocate budgets toward all of those, but that wouldn't make much sense. But how do you determine which one would be most beneficial?
Well, it reminds me of one of my partners, business partner. I only have one. I have a wife, but not my business partner. Right. Thought I'd clarify. Anyway, so it reminds me of my business partner, and we discovered that on an acquisition that we made, that one of them had an Etsy site that we had no idea even existed. So we were like, oh, wow. And he was like, man, we should pay attention to this to get this up and running. And I was like, I basically had a entrepreneur to entrepreneur come, not necessarily come to Jesus moment, but I was like, hey, what we're doing here in Facebook advertising and Google advertising is really profitable. Let's not get sidetracked. You know what I mean? Let's find the things that are actually working and stick with that. If we go back to that funnel that we were talking about, as far as brand awareness, consideration, and conversion, you have to know where each of these tools fit within that funnel. And you have to design systems and processes in place and content in place that's ultimately going to move people from becoming aware of your brand to considering to want to work with you, and ultimately from considering to want to work with you to ultimately buying your product or service. And so most likely people are familiar with social media and they think, man, if I just post more on social media, that's going to give me more business.
Yeah.
Not necessarily. It kind of feels like the right thing to do. And I honestly think the days are gone where you can just build a massive audience on social media. I think it's very oversaturated, but it's still something you should be doing. But I don't know that it needs to be your main focus. So, posting on Instagram, LinkedIn, TikTok, all those things, I would have a presence on there if you can, post 2-3 times a week. But I wouldn't overthink those platforms. I would just make sure that the content is really high quality so that it reflects your brand well. But I would design a marketing system depending on what your margin is in your product or services. So let's say you've got a $1,000 product or service, you've got $500 in margin. That means that you can spend up to $500 in order to acquire a new customer. And so then you can ultimately play with different advertising campaigns in order to see if you can acquire a new customer for less than $500. Because then anything less than $500 is profitable for you.
Wow. That's a formula for you. That's definitely some good information because, normally we think, okay, the more we post and the more visibility that we have, the increased likelihood of getting a potential customer or something like that. But just like you said, I mean, it's more about the quality of the content, right? And it needs to make sense. Mm-hmm. Yeah, no, I agree. Evan, talk to us a little bit about, okay, so we kind of touched a bit on the social media aspect of it, but digital marketing is more than social. And I know that has a lot to do with the brand presence and having an online presence in particular. And now, since we're facing the pandemic, what are some things, this is going to be like 2 parts. So what are some things that maybe there's a company that did not have a brand presence, or maybe they did have they did not have a online presence, like a website, but now they're kind of, they can still kind of recoup and get that up and going. First of all, like, what are some things that they can do to kind of pivot, so to speak? And then second of all, what is the importance of having an online website or a profile that people can access if you aren't able to be in your physical business or location?
So one thing, I'll just start off with a couple of things. So one is, if you can afford to hire an agency that can make marketing profitable for you and leave you the opportunity to try and work on your business and continue to do the things that are going to ultimately help you be successful in the long term, which is, basically staying in your sweet spot. If you have the margin to do that, I would suggest doing that, meaning that you already have the cash on hand. You already got a business, system and process already. You're not just starting up. Generally, we don't work with startups. Not to say that, if they have the capital, maybe, but I don't know that's the best time to be using money that you don't have on marketing. That's my caution. If you are just trying, if you don't have a ton of money, I would suggest checking out Squarespace. It's really hard to build an ugly Squarespace site. Yeah. So it basically gives you a template for at least a half decent looking site, and it's really easy. So a lot of the websites that we build are Squarespace. They might be way more complex and optimized than what you might build, but ultimately it's a good starting point, and you can kind of work on it from there. So I suggest, if you're just creating a presence online as far as website goes, try Squarespace. It's a platform that we like and we use. And then, what you should be like, why does that matter? Well, ultimately, everything is, not to say everything is online. Physical interaction matters. I don't want to be that guy that's like, email is dead, physical advertising is dead. I don't know that it is, but it's just really hard to track. So I almost never advise my clients to do things like billboards because it's really hard to track their direct return on investment for those things. And we have so many options to track a direct return on investment. Why would I want to do something that's totally a gamble at this point? So your website, it's almost like a must-have. I think something that comes to mind is I was just talking to a company who basically does like legal asset protection. So they legally protect your assets in the event of, a pandemic per se. Yeah. And, they manage millions and millions of dollars worth of assets for their companies or for their clients or whatever. However, I'm going to their website and their website looks like it's from the 1990s. And I was like, there's no way I would ever trust you with my, my legal structure because your website looks so outdated. What can you possibly know if you're not up to date? So it's undermining their authority because they don't have a website that reflects their brand really well.
Oh yeah, that is wow. Yeah, that matter of fact, I've seen a case of that this week, which was I've kind of the same reaction that you just had. It's something else, but and I agree. Like the online, we definitely have to have a way. I mean, I've seen some businesses. For example, like jewelers and things like that have stores, and then you can't open up the store, but maybe you have a Squarespace site or something where people can go and order online. So that definitely makes sense. Give us a few tips, like as far as establishing. What's a good way to get started with establishing an online footprint?
Yeah, if you're a local business and you're just trying to make sure that, like, let's stick with the local business and let's go with the jewelry store. You definitely need to have a website that looks amazing, especially if you're selling jewelry, because having been in the jewelry industry, a lot of it's perceived value. So if you can increase the perceived value of your product by having a good-looking website and a great brand, ultimately people are going to be willing to pay for your product several $1,000s more because they perceive the quality of the brand. I don't know how much Tiffany and Company, how much they charge, their costs are. But let's just, for the sake of it, say that you have Jared, like the company Jared Jewelers, whatever, owned by Sterling, and then you have Tiffany. Well, if you look at them, they could be selling the exact same product, but because one is Tiffany and Company, I am way more likely to buy that one because the brand is so well established and it looks awesome. I just trust Tiffany and Company. So ultimately, your website's got to look awesome, especially if it's a jewelry store. And you just want to have that basic online presence there. In addition, I would be creating social media profiles based off of whatever your brand name is. Make sure that you try to acquire whatever handles that you can. You may not be able to use your name directly because somebody else might have claimed that already. But make sure that you claim those profiles and then probably put, at least 24 pieces of content or photos or whatever on the actual Instagram or Facebook, because you want to have something on your profile so that people can go on your profile and look through and scroll through your photos or videos. And I just really highly suggest that you make it look as great as you know how to. If you can hire an agency or professional photographer, that's even better. However, you just need to make sure that it looks good. And then obviously there's stuff like reputation management or having a Google My Business listing, things like that you can help your customers to stay informed of, are you open right now or not? What are reviews? Because ultimately, if you can establish authority by having other people review your store, then they're more likely to work with you because they're going to see testimonials from other people.
Excellent. Thanks so much for sharing that. And I want to also dip a little bit into talking about the courses that you offer, because in addition to you guys being a service provider, you also offer these online courses, which is helpful for businesses that are looking to kind of learn the process. I think that's going to be very useful for some of the people that are listening. So if you will, Evan, just drop some information about your courses and what that entails, and specifically like who would be a perfect candidate to take this your online course.
So the best candidates for this course is going to be people who already have a business. They may not have the business that they want. It may not be as profitable as they want, or they're basically working for their business, and their business owns them. They own a job, essentially. So it's anybody who wants more out of their business but already has a business. So we've yet to create a startup course that's on the horizon, but if somebody's thinking about creating a business, it's not for them. It's for people who want a 6 or 7 figure business with a lot of profit in it. I basically lay out the blueprint that I've used to double our company's bottom line revenue every single year for the last 3 years. So all the hyper optimizations in your business, your marketing, yourself, your leadership, all of that I package into this course, and it's $5,000. But if you're an existing business owner, that's just one client to a lot of people, or one customer. So it's basically I want to say the coming to fruition of helping small business owners and entrepreneurs, because if you sign up for a consulting session with Caffeine Marketing, it's going to be $2,500, and that's going to be for a month or two. But you're going to get this entire course that basically tells you exactly, like Lego block by Lego block, how to structure your company in your day, in your week, in order to get the company that you've been dreaming of.
Okay, got it. And how long is the course? And also, is there a specific industry that you guys don't? Well, let me just put it like this: what type of industries best suit working that you guys work with, rather?
So we work a lot with B2B and B2C.
Okay.
There's some people who might specialize in only working with lawyers, or only working with hairstylists or doctors or whatever. And it's not to say that that's not a real thing, but what I found is that's an excuse to charge a lot and not be really good at marketing in general. So the same principles pretty much apply across the board. Now the principles from B2B, which is business to business, and B2C are different. The platforms and the tools that you would use are different. But if you've got somebody who knows B2B, it's going to be applicable for most B2B situations. If you've got somebody who knows B2C, it's going to be applicable for most B2C situations. So the course itself is going to be great for either business owner in either category, for sure. So it's 9 weeks, and you could probably get it done sooner than that. But the idea is that the way that it's laid out, each of them stack on top of one another. Each of the modules do, so that you're going to you start with self, because ultimately self is the thing that gets in the way of most entrepreneurs and business owners from being successful. So starts with self, goes into business, and then finally the pinnacle is leadership.
Leadership, perfect. Oh yeah, and that's a whole different, another great topic that we'll have to cover. Hopefully, we'll have you back in the future to get into that, because I know you're doing great things in your field, which is excellent. But before we wrap up, Evan, go ahead and drop us some words of encouragement, any advice or anything that you want to offer the audience. And then from there, just make sure that you also leave us your social media handles where we can find you online, and anybody that may be interested in reaching out for your service.
Totally. So the thing that comes to my mind right now is that, a lot of business owners, entrepreneurs, people who are wanting to create a startup or in the middle of that, probably feel a lot of uncertainty, and rightfully so. And I just want to encourage you to really look at what matters 100 years from now. And that's going to be different for each person. For some people, that's going to be legacy. For some people, that's going to be family. For me, it's also my faith. And so as I look at what's going on in light of our, global economy, it feels like a lot, but if you put it in a picture of 100 years, it's really not that big of a deal. Yeah. So I would say, hey, look at 100 years from now and try to reframe whatever you're experiencing in light of 100 years or eternity, depending on who you are. The thing that I'd love to share with you guys is I've got a free guide on both my personal website and my agency website. It's called 5 Steps to a Winning Sales Funnel. I basically give you step by step exactly how to build a winning sales funnel. So you can just go to evanknox.com or caffeine.marketing. No .com on that one, just caffeine.marketing, and you can download the guide there.
All right, perfect, guys. So you heard it here with Evan Knox, the founder of Caffeine Marketing. You guys be sure to connect with him directly, follow him on social media. And Evan, we definitely appreciate you taking the time out to speak with us, and look forward to having you back in the future.
Thanks. I appreciate it. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. You take care.
Thanks for hanging out with us here on SOB. We hope this episode has been resourceful. If you'd like to check out the latest articles or follow Keetria's website updates, just log on to Keetria.com or follow her on Twitter at KEETRIA.